Ladies, gentlemen, sickos, normies, welcome back to episode 55 of the Landy Lodge. But as always, before we roll into it, we got some sick motherfuckers we need to thank. Want to say a thank you to those who support to the Lodge monthly and keep us fueled, keep us going. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you to Alex Pamal of All Nerds Welcome, of David Freeze of Brown Sugar and the Blind Albinos, Chris Perkowski of ChargingTheMound.com, Scott Castellano of TheEndOfTheBench.com, Maria Palmieri, my mother and father, of course, Charlotte Astry, the always lovely Charlotte Astry, Daniel Muller, Shane Thomas Driscoll, Andrew Clay of Brown Sugar and the Blind Albinos, and at last, Roger Kemp. Thank you to each and every one of you. Today, I have the joy of bringing you Elise Weber.
Hello.
What's going on, Elise?
Nice to see you, and thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. We'll stop giving them a little ear beating. We'll let this episode roll. You're going to get a quick tune from Akira the Don, and we will be on our way.
None of that. But something you forgot. See, everybody's forgotten something. You left it out. Just missed it. See? And so I can bring this out, what you've forgotten, if I ask you, who are you? Well, you say, I'm Paul Jones, or whatever your name happens to be. I say, oh, no. Don't give me that stuff. Who are you, really? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?
It's spoken word, you know? Spoken word doesn't get
Who are
enough
you,
credit.
really?
All right, let me count this down, and then we're going to go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're live. Elise, what's up?
Hey, Nick.
How was your ride in?
Pretty great. I mean, I stopped at Starbucks. It was a pretty long wait on the drive-through line, you know.
Well, there was a puppuccino thing going on.
Oh, my goodness.
This is 2020. We do puppuccinos now.
And just the fact you're on Long Island, it kind of like adds to the, the whole luxury experience of living. You know what I mean?
Well, if puppuccinos are going to be a thing anywhere, it was either going to be Long Island or San Francisco.
Maybe it's both. I don't know. I've never been to San Fran. So.
I went to San Fran once, but it was 10 years ago. It wasn't. It's not the same, and I don't mean that in a bad or good way. It's just
different.
A lot of change has happened in the last
see.
10 years. A lot could change in 10 years.
For sure.
You know. So you're an artist.
Yes.
Would you call yourself a painter, or do you have more crafts beyond that? 'Cause I noticed you put up a lot of paintings.
Yes, I consider myself a landscape painter. So my subject is typically of the landscape of, just the experience of seeing surroundings around you. I've also, I'm still achieving my degrees. So I've taken multiple classes in different mediums. But painting has always just been like the one that I always gravitate towards. Well,
when did that start? Is that something you knew since you were like really young, or is that something you kind of discovered as you started majoring in art?
So funny story actually. My parents discovered that I was really interested in drawing as a kid, and they actually signed me up for private painting lessons with a local painter. She had a little shed behind her house. And it was totally furnished. There were paintings on the wall. She had cabinets and stuff like that. It was absolutely adorable. And she'd have classes of about 5 different people, all different ages, all different levels of art. And she'd just rotate around the room and kind of just like help everybody along with their own personal art journey. So, there's a bunch of adults learning how to do watercolor.
Oh, so you were in classes with adults while you were a kid? Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So, like, my first day there, she had me sit down at a table. She had me draw an apple, then an orange, then, like, all these just, like, very, very basic shapes.
Right.
And then each week she, like, gave me more challenging tasks to do.
God, she leveled you up.
Exactly. So probably around like the 4th week, she asked me to find images online that I was interested in. And usually they were of, landscape scenes of mountains and lakes and stuff like that. And I started learning how to use oils in 5th grade, I think it was, when I was only 11 years old. Wouldn't say they were the best, but I mean,
I'm sure for an 11-year-old, they were fucking just fine.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, for 11, I think I did pretty well.
This is such an artist move to critique your 11-year-old self.
I know.
I'm just saying, like,
I
only an
know.
artist would do that.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was my painting experience back then. And then, in public school, I was always involved in art classes and stuff like that. But you rarely, public schools, they rarely have the money to, supply paint. So, I kind of had like a little bit of a dry spell in terms of painting material. And then towards the end of high school, I, discovered oils again. Then entering college, I, at Adelphi University, where I go with your lovely girlfriend, Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Yes. I learned all these great different mediums and materials. I learned how to sculpt. I learned how to use printmaking, to use the turnstiles, the pressing machines. But then I always had to take a painting class. And that's kind of just been always the thing that's stuck.
Well, it seems to be your center.
Yes.
Like everything else is kind of centered around that. Now, you draw plenty of, I'll say, crashing waves.
Yes.
That seems to be a very common theme in your painting, is a lot of these crashing or colliding waves.
Yes.
Why?
That's also another pretty funny story, actually. When I'm wide awake and I'm living, I find such a unique energy from going to the beach. I've always been a beach girl, you could say. My sand, I call her Ruby Sunset, but then her nickname is also Sandy because she literally I've filled up the beach. I've filled up the beach in that car. God bless her. But it's funny because at night when I sleep, I actually have reoccurring nightmares of tsunamis
And tidal waves.
and
Stuff like that?
tidal waves. Yes. They're still beautiful, but there's more of like a angry, demonic presence to them, which only happens in my subconscious, really. Because when I'm out at the beach, I want to be in the ocean. I want to I see another kind of beauty from it. So I feel like my art, I kind of used both forces at the same time. So even though like the ocean is like beautiful, I still get like that demonic energy from my dreams, and it kind of just like produces these very like momentous dynamic pieces.
Well, the pieces are very alive.
Yes.
There's a clash. I think it's the best way to put it. Is there's some kind of clash in there. Now, how much have you psychoanalyzed that? How far down the rabbit hole can we go about this demonic water recurring dream?
Well, I think so much about it because apparently my great-grandmother, she was a medium, and she actually used to have the same exact
ones?
reoccurring nightmares. I've talked about it with my mother tons of times. And I don't know, whenever I have one, I'm thinking like, I wonder what sparked that last night, And then I've been indulging in tons of art history. So I've been looking at ocean paintings throughout history, specifically English painters like Turner. He has very beautiful but very like dynamic pieces of the ocean and shipwrecks and stuff.
I was gonna ask what artist has influenced you the most?
Definitely Turner.
Turner.
Yes,
okay.
William Turner.
William Turner.
Yes.
From Pirates of the Caribbean?
I mean, maybe that's
Maybe that's a little inspiration for the character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. I actually never put those two together.
Yeah, just
I love
clicked
Pirates
right
of the Caribbean.
Yeah, me
can't
too.
believe I never noticed.
Might be a little tip of the cap
Yeah.
to the painter. That's pretty cool.
I'm also trying to, broaden my horizons in terms of, exploring all different like points in history
Right.
to find influence. So I've been looking a little bit more like modern people like Eric Aho. He is a living contemporary artist, and he does landscape paintings, but they're extremely abstract, but they still have that dynamic, like, like you can see all his mark making. So that kind of gives me that inspiration. So I'm using subject inspiration from old people like Turner, and then new inspiration for like, kind of making it contemporary and current.
And current. Modern.
Yes.
So a little mix of old and new.
Yes.
perhaps that's part of the clash going on in the paintings. Who knows?
Perhaps. Who knows?
But I do want to say, I've always been very impressed with your artwork.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I have my preferences, and I don't normally gravitate towards landscape painting, but I love yours for everything that you just described because there's a lot of character. There's a lot going on. It's like I feel like I could almost look at them and reverse engineer a story out of them.
Yeah.
Because there's clearly something happening. You know, it's not very often from you I just see a peaceful meadow. You know, there's usually some inner conflict inside your work, and I think Van Gogh was a lot like that. He wasn't as blunt about it.
Yes.
But I feel like his style, you know, having been to the Van Gogh Museum in the last, I think I was there 6 months ago. Charlotte and I went. Yeah. But no, I just wanted to say I think that's one of the reasons why I thought you'd be perfect for this podcast. 'Cause I think your art goes beyond just the work. I think you really are an artist, and there's something genuine about what you're doing.
Thank you so much. It means a lot, and especially, you know, even though I'm confident about like my subject choices, there's still a part of me, like, you know, we're still very young. We're still, you know, developing our voice and stuff like that. I still, like, when I get asked that question, like, why landscapes of all things? You know, like, it's a very, like, you know, it's been there, done that in terms of landscapes. So I kind of have to, like, you know, overcome that obstacle of, like, landscapes have been painted before, like, why don't you do something different and new and original? I don't really see like that's not like my point for making art. That's not for doing something new. I don't know, it kind of just like it's kind of what resonates with me, you know. And I think I'm very lucky in the fact that landscape, that subject, is very relatable because you know, everybody experiences it every day. That's why I'm trying to explore not just waves anymore at the ocean, but mundane moments too, like urban streets and, you know, very like blocky buildings and stuff like
It's
that.
like windows into other worlds.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I fuck with that. I mean, I think one thing where art can frustrate me is there seems to be an idea lately, like just because it's novel or just because it's new, it's supposedly good. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think just because something is different doesn't make it good.
I completely agree with that as well.
You know, I think there has to be substance in what you're doing. You know, and even if it's like I'd rather see something that's been done before, but in a new light, than something that's just completely novel, but lacks substance.
Yeah, because then that kind of makes it seem like you're trying too hard, or you're trying to just fit that image. It's kind of like, you know, everybody. It's funny because usually, in terms of like, you know, fitting in the world, it's about wearing the same clothes as everybody else, the same shoes. Like, oh my God, I have Uggs too. I have like that. But then when you enter the art world, it's all about being completely different and like outrageously like weird and funky and political. Like there's so much like heartache in the world. I feel that, you know, it makes total sense that people use art to like, you know, express that heartache and stuff like that. But personally, for me, my art is kind of just like a time to escape that, kind of like to remind myself that there is good.
There's more to it.
Exactly.
Well, I think the best kind of art, and this is just my opinion, of course, but it transcends all those things. Like the best art is bigger than politics. You know, the best art unites people that would otherwise be separated, or people that would otherwise be divided. I think the best art has the kind of power to unite people.
Definitely.
You know? And that's me. And look, there's merit to being divisive. There are great pieces of art I love that have been divisive, or great movies that have been divisive. Like the movie Joker, in some senses, was a little bit divisive for some audiences.
Loved that
but I know
movie.
you and I would agree that movie is a work of art.
Yes.
You know? But I think a lot of the time, you know, work doesn't always need to make some kind of controversial statement. I think sometimes some of the best work tells us what we already know, but it's just a much needed reminder.
Well, it's kind of like what we were talking about before. Like, you know, if you can like subconsciously feel that passion that was made and like whatever you were doing, that is what
that's what people show up for.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, in terms of like controversial art, like we just said, like I don't necessarily do controversial political art, but it's extremely valid. Like throughout history. My favorite museum is the Met. There's over 5,000 years of art pieces there. And you can see, like, all the way back from the ancient Egyptians, like, they were making controversial art. They were making stories and statements. Even those Turner paintings that I was talking about, those were controversial because, you know, it was not really, like, calling out something that was bad necessarily in that time, but it was something different.
Okay.
So that's, like, what was controversial about it. Van Gogh is very controversial because it wasn't, like, a perfect, painting piece. So, and then you can go into, like, the feminist movement in the 70s, like the Guerrilla Girls. Like, that stuff is weird, but it is a statement. And that's, you know, that's just a whole
Tell me
other
more
world of
about
art.
that. Tell me more about the Guerrilla Girls. I don't know a lot about that.
Okay, so the Guerrilla Girls, it was basically calling out to all the, you know, famous art galleries throughout the world. Very academic pieces, like at the Met and stuff like that. Most of the walls were covered with art primarily made by men. The Guerrilla Girls, they're this, you know, feminist group of women, and they disguised themselves as they wore gorilla masks, like full-on headpieces, and they would kind of use these very graphic they would make these very graphic posters of them just wearing the gorilla hats and then saying a statement like, you know, most of the art in museums is created by men, yet most of the paintings depicted are of naked women. And, like, that's the piece. And I saw a whole exhibit about it, and it was very interesting.
That does sound very interesting, and I'm taking it had an impact and it worked.
Yes, for sure. And that's why it's in a museum right now, because it made an impact in history. And that should be documented.
That should be documented. And what is it, in the Met? Or
no, that was actually an exhibit at the Brooklyn Museum.
At the Brooklyn Museum. Okay. Right place for it, I think so.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool. No, it's very cool. That's the thing. Art is powerful like that. Like, if you really want to make a statement, if you give people a beautiful work of art to make that statement with, it'll resonate.
Yeah.
I really think so.
Yeah.
Other than painting, what is your next favorite craft?
Ooh, probably, this is going to sound really cheesy, but I love teaching. Teaching, yes.
Very nice.
So,
well, what do you teach?
Well, right now I'm currently teaching dance to students. I've been doing that at my part-time job, you know, getting through college. And then I am getting my degree in art education. So, and teaching all the time, you know, and teaching something that you truly love and are passionate about is extremely important in that field, because if you're not going to praise what you teach, then why even bother?
Even teach it?
Exactly. Yeah. Other crafts, let me think. It's usually that, It's funny because I'm usually, like, I consider myself a pretty creative person. I like indulging mostly in, like, visual art, and then I've always danced throughout my life too. And then back in the day in high school, I used to sing, color guard.
Oh, you did theater too, didn't you?
Theater, yeah, all stuff like that. But
oh, so you've tried every flavor of Mountain Dew.
Basically, yes.
Oh, good for you. Then that's the thing. It makes painting all the more special, because it's not like you haven't gone out and explored other things. You know, it'd be one thing if painting was like the one thing you did your whole life and kind of committed to it, but it sounds like you kept that at your center, and it seems like you've been around the bend. You've done visual art, performance art, even teaching.
Yes.
You know, and you still find painting to be right there in the center, which is, you know, all the better for it.
Yeah, I think also, just thought of it now, like, a way that I find inspiration for my landscape paintings is going out and exploring those landscapes.
Oh, I want you to tell a story, actually. I want you to tell a story of the time where you went to the beach and you had everything set up.
Oh,
do you know? I think you know where I'm going with this.
God.
I think you have to tell this story.
Oh my God. Okay, yes. So I was trying to please my professor this past semester. I'm a senior, so I'm, you know, indulging in my senior thesis capstone project. So she was like, Elise, I want you to make as many en plein air paintings each week as possible. En plein air, for all you out there, is basically when you go out on site and paint what you see in front of you. So I have to go out and scout these places and bring all my supplies with me, set them up, and then I just go for it. So I was making multiple per week, probably about 4 each week of like 12 by 12 pieces. And I usually was able to complete them within like an hour or 2.
Okay.
But one day I saw that the wind was howling and the sky looked really angry. So I thought in my head, I'm like, oh, wow, the waves at the beach must be rumbling right now.
The demonic presence called you.
Yes. So I took out Ruby Sunset, my car, and I drove out to Jones Beach. Everybody's... This is back in, like, November, I want to say. So it was already pretty cold out.
Pretty cold.
Yeah. So everybody, there are some people in Long Island that go to the beach and just like walk around no matter what time of year.
Yeah.
So there were people out, taking pictures, hanging out with their
there's
families.
a lot of people live there. You'd be surprised how many people live in those beach towns on
yes,
Long Island.
That's true too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I took out all my supplies. I took it's probably like a 1/4 mile walk from the parking lot to the spot, going through the sand, everything like that. And I set up my work, and I see that not only are the waves extremely rough, but the waves eroded a cliff in the sand. Have you ever seen that before?
Yes.
Like when the waves are so powerful that it actually eats away from the sand that it's hitting, and it creates this very like angular cliff, and it was a pretty high one too. So I said, oh, I'm going to stay back, but close enough so I can see the water.
Right.
So, I thought I did good. I set up pretty far away. I'm starting to paint. I already had an issue from the start because all the sand in the wind, it was mixing with my paint. So I had sandy paint. It was probably like a solid by the time I was able to put it on the canvas. And I was like,
That'll add character to it.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I was like, I am ambitious. I'm going for it. And then all of a sudden I look up and I see a wave coming for me, and I'm like, it's not stopping. It's coming. I'm like, oh my god. So like I'm trying to get everything. Not only do I have all my painting supplies, but I have like personal belongings. I have my phone, my keys, my wallet,
Your whole life.
my entire life with me, all sprawled out because I was ready to
It's your workspace. It's your spot. Yeah, I feel you.
Exactly. So I had to grab everything as fast as I possibly could. Impossible to do. A bunch of my paintbrushes got washed away. My entire workspace and my painting got all wet.
Oh my goodness.
My backpack got wet. I got wet. It was like I said, it was November. It was very, very cold. That water was
wet and cold is
freezing.
not going to be fun.
Mm-hmm. So, that happened, and, all the people, enjoying their day at the beach just
watched.
Just watched. They were like, oh, and like, it's not like I was like quiet about it either. I think I even called out for help.
Oh God.
I was
this is New York, baby.
Long Island, baby. Yep. So I'm like trying to get everything, and like I said, I got all washed up and everything like that. It was pretty sad, but I still had that ambition in me. I was like, this is what William Turner had to go through to get these paintings. So you know what?
Yes.
This is for Turner. I set up probably another like 50 to 100 feet back. I was like, okay, this is
adjustments.
Adjustments. This is fine. This is good. I keep on going. I'm missing a few paintbrushes. Everything's wet, but I'm still making here. Probably about 5 minutes later, I look back up. It's coming for me again. I was like, oh no. And this guy was pretty close to me. He was walking by himself, and he looks at the water, and then he looks at me. He goes, oh no. Just like completely, he's like, oh no. And I'm like, oh my God, shit. So, oh my gosh.
Oh no.
So I not only did all my stuff get wet, but the wave was so hard that I actually like started like tumbling.
Oh my God.
I actually started tumbling.
How was the dude?
Oh,
was the dude just watching?
He just watched. He had a little bit of a laugh to him. It was so embarrassing, man. After that, I was like, F this. The ocean doesn't want me to paint today.
Oh no, I feel like the demonic presence laid like a mousetrap for you. Like it gave you the cheese. It's like, look, I'm here.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful way to paint.
Yeah.
And just smacked you.
And it's
So you never finished that painting?
I mean, it's finished. Basically, as much as I was able to do of it, most of it is still covered in sand. It basically feels like sandpaper, just like all different muddy colors. It really doesn't look that good, but it was an experience.
It's something to be proud of.
Exactly.
It's an artist's experience.
I don't think I'll ever throw it away. Let's just say that.
I don't think you should. I think it's a relic to your ambition and devotedness.
There's definitely a story behind that one, so I don't ever want to forget it. Yeah.
So, when you're not arting and when you're not dancing or teaching dance or doing any of this stuff that keeps you busy, what do you do?
I love either binging on Netflix, because that is definitely something that keeps me occupied, especially through the nights where I can't sleep because of all those tsunami nightmares. Lately, I've been binge watching. I watched all of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus.
Yeah, how'd you like it?
It was absolutely incredible.
Are you in love with Baby Yoda like everybody else?
Oh yes, but you know who I actually felt worst for was I forgot his name, but that old man that helped the Mandalorian out throughout the whole series.
Jesus Christ, I know who you're talking about. He's in the first. I have spoken.
Yes.
Queel.
Yes.
Queel, yeah.
I don't
know. Spoiler alert, by the way, if you've not seen The Mandalorian, just skip over this part.
Yes. Man, that was a hard.
Yeah, that was hard.
Hard demise.
That was hard. That was hard to watch. But a hero's death makes you eternal, immortal in some ways.
Definitely, because you'll never forget
No
them.
matter how many seasons of The Mandalorian we have, we will remember him.
And we still have Baby Yoda.
Because of him.
Yes,
we still have Baby
because of
Yoda.
him.
So Baby Yoda will carry the legacy. No, it's really a great series. It's not. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's a masterpiece yet, but it's really good. I don't really watch a lot of shows or TV. I didn't see Game of Thrones.
Oh,
I didn't see
neither.
Sons of Anarchy. I didn't see anything. Better Call Saul. I haven't seen any of this, but I watched The Mandalorian because I grew up a Star Wars nerd. My family liked it, and I don't like the new movies that much. But The Mandalorian is great. And I think it's a lot. I have a thing for the loner and his or her cub story trope.
Yes.
You know what I mean? The loner and the cub.
Yes, for sure.
I have such a soft spot for it.
Well, because it not only are you seeing his extremely independent and heroic and he's very he can stand on his own, but he also has a heart.
He has a soft spot. Well, the thing
and
is,
he won't admit it.
He not at all.
He never admits it.
Not at all. Well, you know what it is? They did such a good job of because the whole point is don't tell me, show me. And I think the show did a good job of that because it makes sense that he wanted to protect Baby Yoda because we kept seeing his backstory where his parents basically hid him away. They, died in that battle.
Yes.
And then the Mandalorian tribe adopted him.
Mm-hmm.
He was taken in by this tribe, and this tribe took care of him, gave him a life.
So maybe his past influenced his choice of holding on to
Baby Yoda. He saw
Yoda.
Himself oh my God, a refugee child with no parents. Take him in.
It makes sense.
Take in the foundling. They call them the foundlings.
Yes.
Which I think is great. I love Cara Dune. She made the first appearance in episode 4. She's a bounty hunter, kind of just like him.
Oh, yes.
And she made the settlement.
Yes.
She kind of joined the A team at
Badass.
the end.
Yeah.
She's great. She's a former UFC fighter.
Really?
Yeah. So when they fight,
I can tell.
Yeah, right. With her fight scenes,
I can tell.
There's a lot of grappling and stuff like that. So I think that's so cool. I really have so much respect for actors that do their own stunts.
Oh, I completely agree.
I think it's so cool. I think it adds so much respect, at least for me, to what they do. That's why I love Jackie Chan growing up.
Oh my gosh, yes.
He was the best.
Bruce Lee. Have you seen Bruce Lee movies?
Yes, I've seen Bruce Lee movies. Who wins in a fight, Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan?
I gotta say Bruce Lee. He's the father.
I agree with you too. I think Bruce Lee wins too. But I will say it depends on the room. Because if you watch a Jackie Chan movie, he uses the room to fight. He'll take the shit in the room and use it to play a trick on you or to knock you.
He's
sweep you off your
innovative.
feet. Yes. So I'm if they're fighting in a sand pit, I think Bruce Lee kicks his fucking ass. But if they're fighting in a library, Jackie Chan might pull it off.
Oh yeah.
Jackie Chan might pull
I agree.
it off. Well, do you have a favorite Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee movie? What's your favorite martial arts movie?
Oh God. It's horrible to say, but I can't really think of any on the top of my head.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It's it was definitely something that my dad he was just like, let's watch this Jackie Chan movie.
Gotcha. So it's something that your family kind of maybe bonded over when you were younger.
Exactly, which honestly, like, I really appreciate. Like, another example of that, Godzilla franchise.
Godzilla.
Like, I feel like I am one of very few, female women who can stand up and say, I fucking love Godzilla versus Mothra.
Wait, that's not the new one, is it?
No.
Old school.
I'm talking about the old school one with those annoying ass fairies that are like.
No, Godzilla vs. Mothra is probably, like, of the old ones, it's probably my favorite too.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing.
And then I saw Godzilla King of Monsters.
And is that the new one?
That was the new one.
Did you like it?
I thought it was great.
Yeah?
I liked the incorporation of all the different monsters that we've.
Out.
Yeah.
The Monsterverse.
Exactly.
It
was pretty exciting.
Do you think the reason you might be drawn to Godzilla is because he's kind of a walking embodiment of that, like, demonic presence from the ocean? Because that's really what he is. He comes up out of the ocean and brings destruction. And, like, sometimes Tokyo and Godzilla have a common enemy. And those are my favorite movies.
Yes.
When there's a common enemy and then you almost kind of end up on Godzilla's team.
Yes.
Like that, so like that works. But at the end of the day, he's like the demonic presence that comes up out of the ocean.
Nick,
so.
you should be a therapist.
Definitely not. I think I'm just bullshitting, but you know what it is? It's like I have such a fascination with stories, because like one of the things that's always fascinated me is that if you look at take the Aztecs and the Egyptians. Mm-hmm. These are two civilizations that had absolutely no way of communicating with one another, but all their stories are the same. They're written the same. They have the same arcs. They use the same symbolism. And I think there's something so, profound and trippy about it.
Something about the human existence.
It's like it's no matter where you are, no matter when you are, the same patterns take place.
Isn't it? It's interesting, but also a little scary. History repeats itself.
And it rhymes.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't repeat, it rhymes.
Yep.
No, it is crazy. It's like, I almost think, going back to patterns, everything's kind of like a pulse. It's like things come apart, then they come together. And they come apart. It's just this continuous cycle of things breaking down and reconstructing themselves.
Well, that's kind of like art, too. Art history. Yeah. You can find that, in the archives of different, relics and, the archaeology of it all. Like, you find similar, they might have a different style to them, Japanese swords versus European swords, but they're still swords.
It's still big knives that are gonna cut you up at the same time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I look at knives and I think of swords. I'm like, what have we done to you? We have emasculated you. Now you cut butter. You used to cut the flesh of demons. Now you cut butter.
Oh my goodness. That is a true fact.
Why do you think we romanticize swords so much? Because I feel like that's another thing with storytelling is swords are very present in a lot of big storytelling.
I'm going to bring in my my dance background to answer this question.
Hell yes, bring in your dance background to answer this question.
I find that although, our modern technologies of weapons, guns, rocket launchers, the whole shebang. Although those might be more effective, there's something about the mind, body, and then sword relationship that will never be able to be replicated through, standing behind, a machine gun that first of all can stand up on its own. You just gotta press a button and hold it down and be like, I think I'm hitting the right spot.
Not that it doesn't take talent to shoot accurately.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Snipers are extremely talented and well-trained individuals.
And feel free, snipers, to not display your talent on either one of us. would be much appreciated.
Very much. But there has to be a very physical and spiritual training behind using a sword, because not only are you when you use one in battle, not only are you fighting one other person, but you're also defending yourself from your own weapon and the other person's weapon
and
too.
It's about it's at the core of why we call these things the martial arts.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Because that's really what they are. It is sort of like a dance. There's a choreography to being a good swordsman.
Yes.
You have to have good form. You need to swing a certain way. Mm-hmm. So actually, I think dance is a great thing to compare it to.
Well, yes.
Do you like reading at all?
I do a little bit of reading when I have the time.
There's a book. It's not very long. I'm lending it to a friend right now that I think you would enjoy. That's about this very thing. It's called The Book of Five Rings. It was written by Miyamoto Musashi. He was a samurai in early history Japan. He's like the most famous samurai to ever exist. He was seen as like the master of masters when it came to being a samurai. And like the whole book, it's maybe 120 pages long. His entire hypothesis is based around, it's like if you learn how to master one thing, then you now can master them all. It's like learning to master one thing teaches you how to master things. So he became a master of swordsmanship. Then he became a master of poetry. Then he became a master of other martial arts. And like he just kind of kept going, and he became a great writer. You know, and back then, when you think of like before education was as accessible as it is today, to become like a master swordsman and like a master of your language.
Excuse me.
Oh, you're bless you. But to do that is quite a tall order. So I know for me, not that I'm a master of anything yet, like I'm a ripe 27-year-old guy. I got plenty of time to be a master at something. But it taught me a lot about the process of learning, and that's like the magical process that can be applied to everything in your life.
Yeah.
It's like the process of like forget about mastering art, forget about mastering music, forget about mastering, anything. Master learning. Because once you do that
first, yeah,
it's all over after that. Everything's like one template. So anyone who's listening, or even yourself, that's Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi.
I'll definitely look into it. Yeah, I definitely think because there has to be some part of the brain. Mm-hmm. I ain't no psychologist, but I know a little bit about it. There has to be some type of, communication in one's brain to understand, like, you have to get the cognitive aspect of it and comprehend it.
Yeah.
And you have to have the passion behind wanting to learn it.
That last part is especially important. You have to want to learn what you're trying to learn.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
And I think that's the biggest challenge when it comes to, the education that we get nowadays. Why am I learning algebra if I'm never going to use it?
That's a good point.
No,
it's a fair argument. Here's the thing. It's not like we shouldn't learn algebra, because what it's about is, look, there's a classroom of 20 kids. If algebra sticks to one of them, and that person goes on to help divulge into new math formulas and solve new problems that we haven't solved, then that lesson wasn't in vain. My problem is we learn the same shit so many different times. Like, I was a history major when I first got to college. Eventually switched to business, but I was a history major. And one of the things that drove me nuts going through school was, how many times do I have to learn about World War II?
Oh, my goodness.
I learned about it in 3rd grade, and then 5th grade, and then 7th grade, and then 9th grade, and then 11th grade. It's like, okay, I get it. But, like, there's 10,000 years of human history. Why do we keep talking about the same war over and over? It's hard because there are different... History is not like a blank template. There are people who are going to be fascinated with ancient Egypt. There are people who are going to be fascinated with medieval times. Mm-hmm. There are people who will be fascinated with the Dark Ages. There's just this infinite pool of history. But when we kind of bend the curriculum to focus around like these very specific events, you almost lose the chance to find someone who might get fascinated with the Aztec Empire and then might want to become an archaeologist and go explore those ruins and maybe unlock unhidden knowledge.
That's why I think I see that in history, and I also see that in science as well, actually. My younger brother, he's 16 now, but throughout his previous education, he wasn't very interested in science. Mm-hmm. And then he started taking marine biology. Then it's stuck. He's researching probably about 30 hermit crabs right now. He's been taking care of them all year.
That's awesome.
He goes and feeds them, so cool. And he does little experiments with them. He's like, are they going to go to the red towel, or are they going to go to the blue towel?
That's awesome.
It's like little things like that.
Was that offered in high school? Was he able to like take a marine bio class?
Yeah.
Is that how he found it?
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what you want to go for. Mm-hmm. Look, everyone he took that class with, most of them probably can't remember one thing from that class, but it stuck to him, and like that's what that's there for. But that's pretty cool. Yeah. If you could change, and like we're not experts for anyone listening, but if you could change one thing about the education system, what would you change? If you could change one thing.
Ooh, that's a good question. I think the There are a couple, actually.
All right, give me two.
You're
Give me two.
asking a teacher here.
Let's go.
A future teacher. I definitely think the standardized elements of major subjects like math and English. Math, it's a little bit debatable because math is a universal language.
Right.
Literally every
Yeah,
single.
the whole universe is made of math.
So that honestly probably should be a little standardized. But then when you bring in like word problems that are standardized, like Common Core, it's all
like
about
reading comprehension,
exactly,
stuff like that.
Exactly. So if you're struggling with, reading in English class,
Mm-hmm.
then therefore you're going to start struggling in math, and that's just not fair. Honestly.
That's a good point. So what do you suggest you do about that?
See, that's also a question. Honestly, I think that, the professionals out there have been doing all that they can.
There's effort going into it. Yeah,
exactly. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, though, it's like those those big people dealing with like the money and the funds into that. Those are the ones that are making, like the final decisions. And that's when things get like a little bit skewed.
Yeah.
You could say. Also, I think socioeconomic differences in different public schools. I think that's a big problem, especially on Long Island. I've been doing lots of research on, our Long Island. It's such a small place, but we have, I believe, like close to 36 different school districts.
Wow. On the whole island?
On this whole island.
Nassau, Suffolk.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Well, I think about just how big my own school district was. It spanned across like 3 towns.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and
that is pretty wild.
And like each town socioeconomically, they're completely different.
Mm.
And there is an issue with people wanting to like move over the border to another school and like interacting one and the other. Some of my best students were the ones who came from families who were financially struggling because they really like see the value in education.
Oh yeah.
And
like
then
you don't know what you have till like it's absent from you.
Exactly. And I think it's very sad to like see children realizing that so young.
Yeah, as bad as I can say as uneven as some things may be down here. I actually, when I was a history major, I was going to be a history teacher. That was my goal, and I started student teaching some kids around where my college was, and I went to college in Newburgh, New York. So a lot of the kids I had a student teach came from a very low socioeconomic part of the state, and they couldn't tell. They didn't know who George Washington was.
Oh.
And like as a history major, that broke my heart.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, we can't even get that.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. That means there's nothing for these kids. Like, how do they stand a chance?
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't find New York on a map. How do they stand a chance?
Yeah. And it's never their fault.
That's the thing. It's not their fault. Like I knew who George Washington was before I had any free will. And that's a blessing. That's a real blessing. So. What is one of your goals to help bring about a Long Island or wherever you end up, a place where we can lift up these lower socioeconomic communities in terms of education?
Most definitely, not just socioeconomic, but also in terms of, students who may struggle with disabilities as well.
Special needs, yeah.
Special needs students. I had the great opportunity to work at a BOCES school this past summer.
Very nice.
And be one-on-one with these kids who have such big hearts inside, and they just want to speak, and they just want to like communicate their thoughts and feelings, and like it was our job to be their translators,
like the bridge between.
Exactly. So I think that's what gives me like the greatest amount of joy. So not only am I looking into art education, but I'm also looking into special education as well. And I think the two can interact perfectly.
Well, I think art can do wonders for anyone, let alone somebody with special needs.
Oh, most definitely. There's a great like sensory aspect to art that's students,
Well, did you see that guy who I think he won America's Got Talent? He's autistic and he has like a speech pattern issue. Like he has trouble speaking. There's a big stutter. But when he plays the piano and sings, he's remarkable,
Yes.
like a world-class singer, and he won. And it's like, that's where things like the arts can really help someone like this. Because like now he has a place in the world.
Yes.
You know, he can play piano and sing while people are eating a fine meal. You know, he can entertain, he can perform. There's a place for him because there's a place for everybody. Everyone just wants to contribute. I think that's what you're saying. Like when you talk about those kids at BOCES who just want to express and communicate, everyone just wants to contribute. Everyone wants to feel like they're helping. It's when we don't feel that way, I think a lot of depression sets in, or a lot of these, you know, negative feelings and emotions come over us, is because we don't feel like a participant or like we're actually contributing something important.
Yeah, and that's that's another issue I see with, you know, the entirety of education in our area is that, you know, like these standards that are put, it's like that's a student's only way to show that they're sufficient. That's the only way to show that they, that they have value. Meanwhile, you know, like special education, those students, you don't want to say that they don't have abilities. They have different abilities.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
for example,
100%.
for example, you know,
That boy who won America's Got Talent. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's kind of just like finding those outlets and
that
using
empower
them.
That empower them. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Well, good. Well, I hope the whole education thing works out for you. I think that field could use more people like you.
Thank you so much.
So, there's a question I wanted to bring up. I do my best to ask every guest this question.
Ooh, I'm excited.
I don't know if you know this question yet, but do you... So there's a lot of companies in the Silicon Valley area that are working on this new technology. And this new technology is essentially going to be putting a microchip in your brain that will replace the smartphone. So it's like if we needed to know anything on command, we don't need to Google search anymore. The brain can now just do it.
Oh my God.
So it can do things like if you have a tumor on your heart, the brain, since the chip is connected to the brain, it can alert you at stage 1. Like it can just pick up these patterns. This is what they're working on. Now, I've brought up many good things about what that technology can do, but there's also questions as to, well, what are the ramifications for putting essentially a machine in my head? Or, it doesn't have to go on the head. Maybe it goes on a wristband. Maybe it attaches to the back of the neck. I don't know.
It's inside of you.
It's still inside of you. You're letting it into your brain. Elise, are you going to do it?
Oh, goodness.
Will you be chip gang, is what I call it.
I would like to see different versions of this chip because
you don't want the iPhone 1.
I don't want the iPhone 1 inside my brain. That would I think that when it comes to, you know, phone usage, it's kind of like you say that I took up my phone right now. Mm-hmm. That would obviously be a little bit rude right now.
If there was not a purpose to it that had something to do with our conversation, I'd agree with you.
Yes. Yeah. However, if it was, I'm sorry.
No, I just see where you're going with it.
However, if it was in my head, I could have been scrolling through Facebook. I could have been I could have been Snapchatting Charlotte in the next room. Hey, Charlotte. I could have been doing a hell of a lot of other things, and this would just be another thing.
Yo, that you know what? No one's brought that up before. That you can't even, if that were true, you wouldn't even know if someone was listening to you anymore.
Exactly.
Because there are people, you know, who I hang out with who I'll be talking to them and then they'll pick up their phone and start scrolling. I'll just be like, hey, you know, if I'm bored.
Exactly. You can physically see with your own eyes. You can see that they're not 100% dedicated or like engaged.
Which is fine. But it's like, okay, well, I know you're not listening, so I don't have to waste my breath. Nothing personal, but you could see it. But now that person, I can't see it anymore.
And dude, imagine a whole classroom of students with chips in their head. The education system it's obsolete. It's gone. It's gone.
Fried.
Absolutely abolished.
I tell you, I am. While we're on the subject, when I was in college, now I didn't get a smartphone until I think my junior year of college, late junior year. I used to be so jealous, if not my senior year, but I used to be so jealous because I went through all of college. And like when I got there, I got to college in 2010. So the smartphone craze was still very novel. It was still very new. These motherfuckers just sitting on their desk every test, looking up answers. And I'm just there with my like Motorola, like fuck you guys. You have an advantage that I don't.
Yes.
And I honestly, that's what's funny is like, that's how it's going to feel with the chip in the beginning.
Yes.
Is you're going to be looking around knowing these motherfuckers are chipping. And it's like, I don't have a chip.
So anyway, Nick, to answer your question, if there were different versions of this chip, say there was like a health chip, a health notification,
A medical chip.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
I feel like that would be. I think that should be the step one.
This is my theory. Is that's how they get everyone. That's my theory. Is the medical stuff is how they get us all? Because I know how they'll seduce and manipulate me.
And then they'll update without telling us.
Exactly.
And then I'll be like thinking about Instagram, and it'll just pop up in my head.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
No,
well, you know,
no.
it's like the domino theory. It's like, well, I'm already medically chipped. That's not so bad. I'm living with it. It's not that different. So you just take on the next one. But like, I know how they get me. I'm gonna be like 62. I will have like had some kind of heart problem. I'll be surrounded by my loving family, and I'll see them. I'll see like my children, and just be like, I can't leave them. Give me the chip, Doc. I need to know if something's wrong. Give me the chip. You know, like I know that's how they're gonna get everyone. And it's just crazy. I'm hoping it's not something they surgically put in my fucking cranium. I hope there's just like a wristband that attaches to my bloodstream. Like, I don't know if you saw Avengers. Like, you know,
Yes.
when Thanos put in one of the stones and he got like the rush, like, oh, I'm hoping it's something like that. Like you just pop a stone in and you're like, oh, okay. Okay, no heart tumor, we can take this out.
Yes.
You know?
Trying them out, yeah.
Yeah, you can pull it in and out. It's not something that's just surgically put into your head.
It's like an at-home biopsy of your entire body.
Yeah, well, it's like I used to remember my grandpa had a blood pressure problem, and I remember he used to do, I don't know if you've seen this, where they put like a whole, the doctors do this too when you get tested, they put the whole like Velcro patch on your arm and blow it up to test it. And it's like, you know, that's something you put on and put off.
Yes.
So it's like, just imagine, you put the little chip in your wrist, blood pressure is good, okay, take it out. You know? So you're not iPhone 1, but you're open to iPhone 4 of the chip.
Yes. I would say medical chip, and then also Landy Lodge chip.
The Landy Lodge chip.
chip.
Oh, don't give me any ideas.
Think
Elise.
of all these companies that can like have their own version of chips.
That's what I was gonna bring up. Is like, who do you sell your soul to? You're gonna get the Facebook chip, the Tesla chip, the Amazon chip, the Google chip. Like, whose chip you get?
You think of the Tesla, and the Tesla comes to you.
Yes. That. Oh my goodness.
Man, there's a whole world out there, man.
Well, that's what's so scary is like, you know, I think I used to talk to my grandparents as much as I could about like what life was like when they were younger, or like when they were growing up, and it's almost like we're a separate species from our grandparents when you really think about it.
I completely agree.
It's almost like we're a separate species. Doesn't make us better or worse, but you know, the not necessarily the quality of life as different as that is, but just the nature of life is so much different. Because like it used to be the family had a car and everyone used that car. Now every motherfucker in the family has a car.
Yep.
My 3 brothers, my mom and my dad, we each have our own car. And you know, it used to have one big slow ass computer for the house. Now, everyone's got a fucking computer in their pocket that's more powerful than the computers that got us on the moon. Mm-hmm. It's like we're already kind of part cyborg.
Yeah.
It's a little, like I said, it's like we're a different species. So when I try to fathom how different things are going to be when we're 70.
It's scary because, you know, like I watched this documentary the other day about it was actually the Bill Nye special on Netflix.
The Bill Nye Saves the World?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And he was explaining basically the timeline of earthly existence, where he like had the start of the timeline start geographically in California and then bring it all the way over to New York. So basically the entire length of the country. Mm-hmm. You have, you know, cells creating for probably about 3/4 of the way over towards New York.
Oh, it's like the amoeba expansion.
Exactly.
Yeah, for like 3/4.
And then a little sliver of dinosaurs, and then a little part of New York as our entire human existence.
The last 80,000 years.
And think about the advancement in just these past few decades in terms of technology.
It's like a spell was cast on the planet.
Yes.
For better or worse, we don't know. We'll see how it ends. But well, I hope it ends after I'm dead personally. But we'll see where this goes. But it's almost like it's just like a snap. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes I think it was just like a big asteroid that just set everything off. Like, have you ever seen 2001: A Space Odyssey?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a trippy movie.
That's a very trippy movie. Like, do you remember the beginning when you had like the primordial apes and then this like black like spacely object crash landed
Yes.
onto the planet, and they all obsessed over it, and they started decoding it, and they like reverse engineered it into society.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I really think like whether not that literally happened, but something very much like that must have happened.
For sure. I think that the advancement of technology has almost been acting like a cancer. You know, like it took a long time for it to like first like appear, and then from there just can't be stopped. It just you know.
I have to challenge the cancer thing, because technology does have a lot of cons, but like because of the advancement of technology, our life expectancy has tripled.
That is true too.
So I see what you're saying about the cancer. I'm just not sure it's the correct characterization. Unless technology blows up the planet, then you will be 100% right.
Yeah. You never know.
But if we look at the bright side, it's more like a.
I only say cancer in terms of like growth.
Its ability to spread.
Yes, exactly.
And I think growth. They just call it a growth.
Yeah.
It's like a growth. They think that part of the thing, and this is going to upset a lot of vegans, but part of the thing that allowed us to evolve so quickly is we started cooking meat. You know, we learned to harness fire, and then cooking the meat allowed us to absorb all these nutrients and proteins that we weren't absorbing before. And because of that, because like there's a small window of time, I don't know how long exactly, but our brain grew 3 times its size in a very small window of time.
No kidding.
Yeah, and that's not seen anywhere else in nature. So it's like, well, something had to set that off. And one of the theories is that we started harnessing fire and cooking our food.
I see.
Yeah, because also like heat has a way of cleaning things.
Yes.
That's why you wash your dishes under,
Boil water.
Steam hot water, boiled water. That cooking the food made the food so clean that our body was absorbing these nutrients that we weren't otherwise getting, and that just allowed us to grow bigger, like biologically in our bodies, or grow bigger brains and stuff of that sort. So it's very interesting.
I'm a believer in the fact that our abilities and advancements are one day going to be our demise.
You think so?
I do think so.
Well, every story has its end.
Yeah.
So you think that eventually our starvation for advancement will be the death of us?
Yes, because I'm gonna be that person.
You can be that person.
Robots.
But why can't robots help?
Why can't I will never say that they can't help, but what if they become smarter than us?
They will.
Exactly.
They will.
So
they already are.
they may be our demise.
Here's the thing. Just because we're not the dominant species on the planet anymore, is that our demise?
That's true too.
It's a different world. It's
Yeah.
scary to think about. It really is scary to think about that there is, and it's happening. Like Microsoft, they have an AI that helps them come up with ideas and business plans, because the AI can think at a rate much quicker than Bill Gates can. So they have an AI. I forget the name of it. It's got a cool name, but it helps. And the military. The military has stuff like that too.
Oh, for sure.
They
Yes.
have AIs that help them with war strategies and stuff like that. So it's like machines are going to have already transcended our intelligence. The thing that's scary is it's out of our power how they morally develop.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be the big
Because there's a difference
thing.
between being smart and then having a morality.
100%.
Exactly what you said.
Well, one of my favorite quotes is like, beware of great teachers who teach terrible things. Because you could be a great teacher, but teach really evil shit. And being a good teacher is a very powerful thing, as I'm sure you know, as I'm sure that's your goal. Being a good teacher is a very
With
powerful
great
thing.
power comes great responsibility.
Yes. It always comes back to Spider-Man on this podcast. Oh, but at least we're reaching an hour. We've already done an hour. It's been 59 minutes.
Oh, wow.
It flew by pretty quick.
Look at that. This was a great conversation.
This was a great conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about that we haven't touched upon?
Honestly, I think we made a good statement today.
We gave it a good run.
Yes.
All right. So I want to give these last minute or two to you. This is your chance. Let everyone who's listening, anyone who's watching on YouTube, let them know, what you have going on, where they can find you, what's coming up. Like, this is your time to shamelessly plug yourself.
Oh, wow.
The floor is yours.
Wow, that's exciting. All right. Well, as we spoke about before in the beginning of our podcast, I am an artist. I have many different social media platforms where you can follow me. You can follow me on Instagram at Elise Weber Art. That's ELISEWEBER art. I also have a website, eliseweberart.com. You can also email me, eliseweberart@gmail.com. I currently have some artwork put up right now at the Seaford Public Library at the back wall near the adult section. Very exciting. I'm also going to be scouting out different vendors for during the summer and stuff like that. But this coming semester is going to be very busy with, doing my senior thesis
It's your
capstone.
final semester, right?
Final countdown.
There we go.
Yep. So basically, very exciting stuff. I'm going to be very busy, and I'm very excited to get into it.
Hell yes. All right, well,
Yes.
keep us in the loop. Anytime you have something going on, we'll post about it. Any of the links that she just mentioned, you can find in the Instagram description or in the YouTube description down below. Elise, thank you very much for coming on. This was great. We'll have to have you back soon.
Oh, thank you so much.
All righty.
None of that. But something you forgot. See, everybody's forgotten something. You left it out. Just missed it. See? And so I can bring this out, what you've forgotten, if I ask you, who are you? Well, you say I'm Paul Jones, or whatever your name happens to be. I say, oh, no. Don't give me that stuff. Who are you, really? Who are you?